Fort Benning, Georgia. 05:56 hours. They cut her name from the roster before she even stepped inside the building. Not a word. Not a salute. Just a clipboard passed between two men in uniform, their eyes fixed anywhere but on her. Major Sarah Delgado crossed the gravel lot alone, her boots grinding into the silence. She still wore the uniform, the insignia crisp, the ribbons aligned, but everyone seemed to look straight through it, as if it no longer held weight. As if she no longer belonged. The morning air was sharp with diesel fumes and pine. Humidity clung to her skin despite the early hour. In the near distance, cadence calls echoed from a PT group jogging the perimeter, their voices bouncing off concrete barracks. But here, at the edge of the administrative wing, there was only stillness. She reached the door. A young specialist opened it, glanced at the name on the clipboard, and then stepped aside wordlessly. No ma'am, no major, just the squeak of boots on tile as she entered. Inside, the building hummed with fluorescent lighting and murmured voices. Sarah's posture was immaculate, chin high, eyes forward, but her fingers twitched once at her side. That was the only visible sign. 20 years in intelligence taught her how to absorb betrayal without flinching. She knocked once. Enter. Colonel Harrington sat behind his desk, flanked by General Wallace and a third man in civilian clothes. None of them stood. None of them gestured for her to sit. Harrington slid a manila envelope across the desk with mechanical precision. "These are your discharge orders," he said. "Effective immediately." Sarah did not blink. "May I ask why, sir?" "You may not," General Wallace said. "The decision comes from higher authority. You are no longer in a position to be briefed." The civilian spoke next, his voice smooth, rehearsed. "Your security clearance has been revoked. You are to vacate the base by 1800 hours. "Your sidearm and ID, please." Sarah removed both without hesitation. The weight of the pistol left her side like a final breath escaping. She placed her identification card gently atop the envelope. "Is there an investigation?" "Not one you will be part of." She stood motionless. The silence swelled. "That will be all, Miss Delgado," Wallace added, the pause deliberate. She turned and exited, each step calculated, measured, until the door closed behind her with the finality of a prison gate. Outside, the morning haze had lifted. Sunlight struck the pavement in pale shafts, cutting across her path as she walked toward the barracks for the last time. No one met her eyes. Soldiers who had once eaten with her in the mess hall now pretended to study their clipboards or check their watches. Even the air seemed to avoid her. In her quarters, she packed methodically, folded every item as regulation had taught her, stowed medals she was no longer permitted to wear. Only when her hands paused over the framed photograph, her team in Afghanistan, dust-covered and grinning, did her composure waver. She swallowed once, and kept packing. At 11:34, she stepped into the administration building for the final time. A junior clerk processed her out with surgical detachment. "You'll need to sign here, Major. Ma'am." "For what, exactly?" "Acknowledgement of loss of pension pending investigation." "What investigation?" "I only processed the paperwork," the clerk muttered. The rain began as she stepped out. Soft at first, then steady. She walked alone across the parade ground, the duffel strap biting into her shoulder. Security forces tracked her movement from a discreet distance. Their presence was a reminder. She was no longer one of them. She was a threat. At the main gate, a corporal she had once mentored sliced her ID card in half without meeting her gaze. "Protocol," he murmured, dropping the pieces into her open palm. She nodded once, then walked forward, leaving the only world she had known for 2 decades behind her. No car waited. Her transportation clearance had been revoked. The nearest town was 7 miles away. So she walked, She had gone barely half a mile when the noise changed. The guards following her tensed. Radios crackled. Heads turned skyward. It started low. A rhythmic, thunderous whoop, 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 growing louder, closer. Her instincts flared. That was not a training helicopter. It was flying too low, too fast, from the wrong direction. Then, base alarms. Lights on the perimeter fence flashed to life. MPs scattered. Sirens pierced the air, and through the clouds came the shape of it, sleek, black, unmarked. A UH-60 Blackhawk, descending like a specter. It hovered just beyond the base fence, rotors churning sheets of rain into a blinding vortex. Sarah stood frozen, soaked to the bone, staring through the chain link at the impossible. The side door opened. Inside, a man in tactical gear leaned out, and for a breathless second the world narrowed to his face. Captain Marcus Reeves, confirmed KIA, zipped in a body bag 3 years ago. Standing, breathing, looking directly at her. MPs raised their rifles. Colonel Harrington arrived, binoculars raised. General Wallace behind him, mouth agape. Then came the moment. The helicopter pilot raised a device. A directional transmitter. Wallace's secure phone buzzed. He answered. Sarah could not hear the words, only saw his expression shift, from anger to disbelief. Then something else. Regret. At last Wallace turned and nodded. An MP stepped forward, unlocked a side gate in the fence and swung it open. Sarah stared. Wallace met her eyes. There seems to have been a miscommunication, he said. And then, against every protocol, he saluted her. That single motion froze time. Not shame. Not guilt. A salute. Major Sarah Delgado stepped forward, rain dripping from her brow, duffel in hand. She crossed the threshold of the base once more, not in disgrace, but summoned by something greater than duty. The helicopter waited. So did the truth. Classified airspace. 0642 hours. The Blackhawk's rotors thundered overhead as the doors sealed shut behind her. Rain streaked the windows, obscuring the base, now shrinking into the distance. Inside, the air was dry, sterile, heavy with the weight of unspoken urgency. Sarah strapped in, her knuckles white against the steel restraint. Across from her sat the ghost of a man she had buried 3 years ago. Captain Marcus Reeves did not look dead. He looked older, sharper, eyes harder than she remembered. A faint scar now crossed his right cheek, a silent testament to whatever story he had lived in the years since his supposed death. "You are supposed to be dead," she said evenly, her voice nearly drowned by the roar of the rotors. Marcus reached into the side compartment and pulled out a headset. "Put this on. You are going to want to hear everything." She complied. The noise dropped instantly, replaced by a low hum, and his voice, clear and measured. "You saw a body," he said. "You did not see my body." Sarah stared at him. "You were zipped into a body bag." "I carried your casket. I folded the flag for your sister." "It had to look real," Marcus said. "Our mission in Syria was compromised." "Someone leaked our coordinates to enemy forces. We were ambushed. 5 dead." "I should have been the 6th. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "But I survived, because I did not follow orders." She searched his face, looking for a lie. She found none. "And they let you disappear?" "They helped me disappear," he said. "Langley did." A new voice broke into her headset. Calm, authoritative. "Major Delgado?" "Good to have you aboard. Apologies for the dramatics." Sarah stiffened. "Colonel Bennett." He had been her handler during joint CIA operations years ago. She had not heard his voice since Kandahar. "I am coordinating this extraction from Langley," he said. "And yes, this entire morning has been a staged removal." "Staged?" she asked coldly.
You humiliated me, stripped my name, took my identity.
Why? Because your life was in danger. The Blackhawk banked hard. Sarah gripped the safety strap. Her instincts screamed for explanation. Colonel Bennett continued. 3 days ago, you flagged anomalies in the Syrian troop movement reports. That data was deliberately altered. I thought the reports felt off. I sent them back through the verification channel. And the moment you did, alarms went off. Not at Langley, at Fort Benning. You were getting close, Major. Closer than anyone before. Marcus cut in. Which is why they acted fast.
Pulling your file, revoking clearance, making it look like you were being ousted for classified misconduct.
Sarah clenched her jaw. They accused me of espionage. Bennett's voice was quiet. That was the cover story. We had to let it happen.
We needed to see who moved against you, and how fast. And you just watched, Sarah said. You let them gut my life.
We bought you time, Bennett said. And now, we need your help. The helicopter began descending. Through the window, dense forest gave way to an old industrial complex cloaked in fog. A lone helipad emerged between the trees. No markings. No fences, no insignia. Welcome to Outpost 7, Marcus said. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Doesn't exist, does it? Not on any budget or satellite record, he replied. Official designation, Project Lazarus. As the Blackhawk touched down, 2 operators in civilian tactical gear met them. No names, no ranks, just sharp eyes and silent nods. Sarah followed them into the building. Inside was another world. Biometric locks, steel blast doors, fluorescent halls, tactical maps plastered across a glowing command wall. Every screen buzzed with encrypted data. No chatter, just focus. Major Delgado, a silver-haired man said, stepping forward. Colonel James Bennett, in the flesh. He extended his hand. She did not take it immediately. You owe me answers, she said. And I will give them, he replied. This way. The briefing room was cold. Clinical. Screens lit up as Bennett tapped a control panel. A network of faces and arrows bloomed into view. General Wallace at the center. We believe Wallace is part of a larger network of compromised personnel, leaking intelligence. Selling operational data. To who? Sarah asked. Multiple buyers, Bennett said grimly. State and non-state. The Syria ambush? It was no accident. Our men walked into a kill box. Marcus nodded. 5 good operators died. That ambush was engineered. Bennett zoomed the network map. Wallace is not the head. He's a node. There is someone above him, codenamed Chairman. We do not know who he is, yet. But we are closing in. Sarah folded her arms. So where do I fit into this? Bennett pulled up a separate file. Her name. Her flagged reports. Intercepted communications discussing her removal. When you submitted that last analysis, you triggered their panic. They moved to discredit you before you could expose the pattern. Classic counterintelligence tactic. He turned toward her. We need you to finish what you started. Sarah looked from the screens to Marcus, then back to Bennett. Let me be clear, she said. You want me to help you take down my own chain of command? We want you to help save what is left of it. Colonel Bennett handed her a secure tablet. Inside is the initial framework for Operation Phoenix. You will lead it. You know the terrain. You know the people. You understand the stakes. And if I refuse? You will walk out of here as Sarah Delgado, disgraced former officer. But if you accept... He slid a sealed envelope across the table. And you get this, full reinstatement, honorable status. Everything expunged. Sarah opened the envelope. Her original orders. Rank. Clearance. Everything restored. Dated today. She felt the weight of 20 years press against her ribs. She looked at Marcus.
Why me?
He answered simply, "Because someone died trying to get the truth to you." Sarah stared. "Who?" Bennett tapped one final file. "James Wilson." The name hit like a punch to the throat. Wilson, her teammate, her friend. Vanished during a black site transfer 2 years ago, now confirmed dead. "He asked for you by name," Bennett said. "You were the last one he trusted." Sarah stood. Her hand hovered over the envelope for a moment. Then she took it. "Then we start tonight. Outpost 7. 1740 hours. The briefing room emptied in silence, save for the soft hum of monitors and the rhythmic flicker of encrypted code across the screen. Sarah remained behind, the sealed reinstatement orders in her hand unopened. She had not looked at them since accepting. She did not need to. The document was not what she needed to believe in. She stared at the tactical wall, at the lines connecting General Wallace to half a dozen other names. Some were familiar, men and women she had served under. Some were ghosts, high clearances, low visibility, barely present on paper. Bennett returned with 2 cups of coffee. He set one beside her. "Decaf," he said. "The real stuff's rationed." Sarah did not move. "Wilson's death, was it recent?" 3 weeks ago, Bennett replied. "He was in Belarus, tracking an arms channel used by the same network. He had intel, hard proof, never made the exfil window." "Did they find a body?" "No. Just blood, gear-torched. We believe he was betrayed by someone inside." Sarah stared at the floor. "He called me Vega. Used to say I was the last star standing in any room full of fading ones." Bennett said nothing. In intelligence, there were few proper funerals. She looked up. "Tell me about the mission." In the adjacent operations room, 6 operatives stood gathered around a digital table. Tactical overlays of Fort Benning rotated slowly. A spider web of red zones, surveillance arcs, underground maintenance schematics. Bennett gestured her forward. "This is your team." Each face turned toward her, appraising, curious, wary. "This is Major Sarah Delgado," Bennett announced. "Effective immediately, she is the field commander of Operation Phoenix." A silence fell, taut as wire. Agent Isabel Torres broke it. Tall, mid-40s, a career counterintelligence operative with steel gray eyes and a scar that split one eyebrow. "With respect, sir," she said, "this morning she was being discharged under accusations of espionage." "Now she is commanding us?" Bennett did not flinch. That was the mission. She was never under investigation. Torres folded her arms. "That might be enough for you. It is not enough for me." Sarah stepped forward before Bennett could respond. "Let me be clear," she said. Her voice carried. "I was dragged out of uniform this morning because I got too close. Someone inside Fort Benning is leaking intelligence. People have died, including James Wilson." The name hit its target. A flicker in Torres's expression. One of the younger operatives looked away. "I do not expect you to trust me," Sarah continued, "but I do expect you to follow orders. Because if we fail, more people die, and the rot in our chain of command spreads." She paused. "You can judge me later, but for the next 24 hours I need every one of you focused." Torres nodded once, then took a step back. "Understood." The mission brief was brutal in its simplicity. Objective: infiltrate Fort Benning's secured server compound. Extract hard data linking General Wallace and his associates to compromised operations in Syria, Ukraine, and Southeast Asia. Confirm network structure. Identify the chairman. Problem: Fort Benning was already on alert. "Wallace has scheduled a full secure server purge," Bennett said. 06 o'clock tomorrow. That gives us less than 12 hours. "Too tight for a digital breach," Torres said.
The moment we hit their system, it flags. No breach, Sarah said, examining the compound map. We go physical. The table displayed the underground layout. Sarah highlighted a service tunnel, an old communications conduit beneath the perimeter wall. It is off-grid, not part of the main security cycle. I used it twice for emergency briefings back in 2018. Torres leaned in. And the biometric lock on the server room? There is a fail-safe override, Sarah replied. Emergency contingency code. Changes daily, but someone on the inside can get us today's code. Marcus entered from the hallway, a duffel over one shoulder. Rodriguez is in. He can meet us near the East Utility Compound at 0200. Bennett looked to Sarah. You know him best. Can he be trusted? He covered my 6 for 5 years, she replied. He suspected something this morning. He is ready. By 21 o'clock hours, the team had moved to a rural hunting cabin 4 miles from the eastern perimeter of Fort Benning. Cold gear was prepped. Radios synchronized, weapons checked and double-checked. The rain had not stopped. Inside the cabin, a map of Fort Benning was spread across the table beneath a single bulb. Sarah leaned over it, marking ingress and extraction routes with a grease pencil. Torres watched her from the corner. You're calm. I am focused. There is a difference? Sarah smiled slightly. Calm is a feeling. Focus is a choice. Torres nodded, just once. Marcus entered, rein on his shoulders. Diversion team is in position, he reported. Ready on your mark. Sarah strapped on her vest. The gear felt heavier tonight, not the weight of equipment, but of trust she had to earn, one action at a time. She turned to the team. Once we're inside, you do not speak unless necessary. No gunfire unless provoked. We get what we came for and vanish before sunrise. She looked at every face. Questions? No one spoke. She clipped her comm to her collar. Then let's make this count. At 22:46, 2 muffled explosions lit the sky beyond the eastern fuel depot. Alarms screamed across Fort Benning. Inside the tunnel culvert, Sarah and Torres moved fast, crouched low in ankle-deep water, weapons slung and breath even. The earth above them vibrated with movement, boots, tires, confusion. They reached the steel grate that opened beneath the base's main comms building. Torres worked the panel. Click. They slipped inside into the heartbeat of a base now chasing shadows. Command, we're in, Sarah whispered. Bennett's voice replied, Understood. Diversion is holding. Extraction window on standby. They moved like ghosts, timing their progress between cameras and shift patrols. Every step was surgical, every breath measured. They reached the server room with 6 minutes to spare. Sarah keyed her mic. Rodriguez, code? A moment's silence. Then, Echo November 7-4, Tango Alpha 39. She entered it. The door clicked open. A low mechanical hiss as the chamber revealed itself, rows of black server towers blinking red and green in the half-dark. Torres moved fast, plugging in the portable data rig. We've got 15 minutes, she said. Sarah stood by the door. Every second here would cost them something. And outside, someone had just noticed the lights had changed. Fort Benning Server Facility. 18 hours. The air inside the server room was colder than expected. Dry, processed, sterile. Fans whirred in a constant low rhythm, masking the faint hum of data flowing through fiber conduits. It should have felt safe. But every second in this room felt like borrowed time. Sarah Delgado stood near the security panel, her body angled to cover the only entrance. Her eyes swept the hallway beyond the reinforced glass slit. No movement, yet, but she could feel it building,
like pressure behind a dam. Behind her, Agent Torres knelt by the main access port, typing rapidly on a hardened terminal. Cables sprawled around her like veins. "We are inside the primary cluster," Torres muttered. "Cluster B7 contains Wallace's secure communications archive." "We tapped it. We cracked the network," Sarah finished. Torres nodded, her focus unbroken. "Starting extraction now." Sarah checked her watch. 0:19. 13 minutes before the firewall refresh cycle locked them out. Torres's equipment began humming, a soft, rising tone as the decryption algorithm engaged. A bar on her screen crawled forward. 1%, 3%, 6%. Sarah keyed her mic. "Command, extraction is in progress. ETA for package completion 12 minutes. Colonel Bennett's voice crackled through the earpiece. "Understood." "Monitor comms. We are picking up chatter. Wallace's team is responding to the diversion, but he is not buying it." Marcus came through next. "Eastern teams are faking a fuel tank rupture. It bought us 20 minutes tops. I say you have 10 left, not 12. Sarah turned to Torres. "Can we speed it up?" "I can try," Torres replied, fingers dancing. "But push too hard, and we trigger the auto-wipe." The bar passed 22%. Sarah glanced at the entrance again. Still nothing. But the silence had shifted. Not emptier. Heavier. At the perimeter checkpoint, a convoy of command vehicles tore across the compound. In the lead Humvee, General Wallace sat back, arms crossed, watching infrared feeds from a field tablet. His expression was unreadable, but his knuckles were pale from how tightly he gripped the screen. "Where is Delgado?" he asked. A young officer leaned forward. "Sir, we believe she may have left the base perimeter. Air traffic sensors picked up a Blackhawk extraction shortly after her discharge." "Unauthorized aircraft over my base?" Wallace asked quietly. "And you did not shoot it down?" "It broadcasted CIA tactical codes. We assumed—" "Stop assuming." The officer swallowed hard. Wallace turned to his aide. "Scramble response teams to all secondary entry points. Check every utility corridor. If she is here, find her." Inside the server room, Torres flinched. Something just changed. Firewall check-in cycle jumped ahead by 5 minutes. Wallace knows. Sarah's stomach tightened. "How much do you have?" 70% of the archive. Comms, mission overlays, encrypted wire transfers. The rest is behind a deeper encryption layer. The lights above flickered, then surged to full brightness. A voice boomed over the facility's internal speaker system. "Major Delgado?" Sarah froze. She knew that voice. "I must admit," General Wallace said calmly, "I am impressed." Torres's hands flew across her terminal. "He's initiating server lockdown." "The entire system is preparing for purge." He jumped the schedule. Sarah keyed her mic. "Command, Wallace is executing the wipe." "We are engaging contingency now." Bennett responded immediately. "Understood. Extraction team mobilized." ETA, 5 minutes. Hold that data. Sarah stepped forward, pulled open the emergency override panel on the wall. "I'm delaying the purge," she said. "Just buy me 3 minutes." Torres looked up. "That's all I need." Sarah entered the override sequence, a fail-safe protocol she had memorized during her tenure. No one was supposed to use it. But no one was supposed to be in this situation either. Wallace's voice returned, colder this time. "You are wasting time, Major." "This ends here." Sarah ignored him. "Contingency engaged. Override accepted." The server hum slowed slightly. A breathing space. 86%, Torres announced. "Almost there." At the far end of the hallway, boots pounded against tile. Security teams moved in a wedge formation. 6 men, full gear, rifles up. A biometric scanner beeped at the corridor gate. One leaned in. "Still hot? Someone's inside." "Orders?" Wait for green light, then breach. They stacked against the frame. Inside the server room, Sarah slid her sidearm from her holster and stepped to the door. She did not speak, just waited. Torres whispered, 94%. Then came the bang. One, then another. The first panel of the security door dented inward. Sarah raised her pistol, steady hands, breath slow. Torres pulled the cable free. Done, we've got it. All of it. Sarah grabbed the data drive and clipped it to her vest. Move! She triggered the exit protocol. The far side emergency door opened with a hiss. The server room's main entrance exploded inward just as Sarah and Torres slipped into the next corridor, emergency lights casting a red glow over their retreat. Rifle fire cracked behind them. Concrete chipped above Sarah's shoulder. She ducked low and returned 2 shots down the corridor, not to hit, but to slow. She and Torres sprinted through the maintenance tunnel, breath ragged, boots echoing off damp walls. Extraction? Sarah gasped into her comm. North tunnel, Marcus replied. We are holding position. You have 60 seconds. They burst through the tunnel's exit hatch and into the trees. Rain lashed their faces. 2 silhouettes waved them forward, Marcus and an operator with a suppressed SMG at the ready. Get in! He barked. They dove into the van. The door slammed shut. The engine roared. The van peeled away on a dirt road, lights off, moving fast through thick pine. Sarah leaned back, panting, clutching the data drive like it was oxygen. Marcus turned from the front seat. You get it? She nodded. Everything. Comms, accounts, chains of command. Enough to bury Wallace. And the chairman? He asked. Sarah looked at the drive in her hand. Let's find out. Behind them, Fort Benning fell away, its lights bleeding into the darkness, unaware that the cancer within its walls had just been exposed. Outpost 7, 03:27 hours. The tactical room was silent when they returned. No cheers, no welcome. Just focused eyes and tense anticipation. Colonel Bennett stood at the center, arms crossed, a digital feed from the data drive already streaming onto the primary display. Sarah handed over the encrypted unit without a word. It was slick with rain, the plastic casing smeared with dirt from the tunnel floor. Torres pulled off her soaked jacket and dropped into a chair, already pulling up terminal access. Give me 10 minutes. I can sort the directory. Bennett nodded. Start with chain of command logs and encrypted transfer patterns. Focus on data routed through Wallace's office in the last 90 days. Marcus leaned on the table next to Sarah. That was fast extraction. Sarah exhaled. Too fast. They were already moving before we got in. Means someone warned them, he replied. Or Wallace already knew, she said. He initiated the purge 10 minutes early. And he spoke to me directly. Marcus frowned. He used your name? She nodded. Full rank. Full tone. No surprise in his voice. That means he expected you to survive, Marcus said slowly. Or he knew you would. Sarah's eyes narrowed. You think he let us in? No, Bennett interjected. I think he wanted you to take the bait. They turned to him. Look at this, Bennett said, enlarging a file on screen. Metadata from the extracted logs. The communications logs match perfectly with our intercepts, too perfectly. The timestamps, the routing headers, all too clean. Torres spun in her chair. You're saying it's planted. I'm saying someone wanted us to find it. Sarah approached the screen, examining the network diagram now forming in real time. Dozens of connections. Names. IP paths. Transfer signatures. It looked like a complete web. It looked too good. Torres, cross-check those logs against the files from Wilson's last report, Sarah ordered. Already running it, Torres replied, fingers flying. If anything doesn't match, it'll show up.
The room tensed. Minutes later, a blinking red flag appeared on screen. "Got it," Torres said.
Cross-check inconsistency in File 6C. Wilson's final intel flagged an alias, K. Sable, as a high-level asset handler for the chairman. That alias appears nowhere in Wallace's extracted network.
Sarah straightened.
They removed him. Which means the files were doctored after Wilson died, Marcus said darkly. They erased the one link that could lead us higher. Bennett pulled up a second data layer. Or diverted it.
A new trace emerged, a financial shell corporation connected to a front in Luxembourg. This transaction went through Wallace's channel but ends in a dead node.
No, not dead,
Sarah whispered.
Scrubbed. She looked to Bennett. He wanted us to think we won. By 4:11 hours, the room was humming with a different energy, focused, surgical. We know Wallace is compromised, Bennett summarized. And the data we just extracted was manipulated. That means the chairman is still hidden, and Wallace is stalling for him. Sarah leaned against the table. So what's next? We arrest Wallace? No, Bennett said firmly. We watch him. Torres turned from her station. He'll go to ground the moment he realizes we saw through the mask. Marcus nodded. Unless we keep the mask on. Sarah's eyes met his. You're saying we make him believe it worked. Exactly, Marcus said. As far as Wallace knows, the extraction worked. The data's real, and we're preparing to leak it. He won't run. Not until he sanitizes whatever's left. Sarah stepped forward. Then we give him a reason to sanitize. And while he does, we follow the trail. At 04:42 hours, Bennett convened the team around the central display. We're staging a controlled leak. A redacted portion of the extracted data will be transmitted to known whistleblower channels. Nothing critical. Just enough to trigger panic. Wallace will go straight to the chairman, Marcus said. Or his handlers, Sarah added. Either way, we monitor. Bennett's fingers hovered over the send key. Once this goes out, he said, there's no walking it back. It'll start a hunt, on both sides. He looked at Sarah. Your call. She held his gaze. Send it. The file launched. A confirmation blinked across the screen. Transmission successful. The clock ticked past 04:45 hours. Less than 15 minutes later, Torres's console lit up. Wallace is on the move. Where? Sarah asked. Private airstrip, 10 miles north of Fort Benning. Surveillance drones catching movement, 3 SUVs, heavy escort. Marcus was already moving. We follow? No, Bennett said. We intercept, but only once he makes contact. Sarah nodded slowly. He's leading us to them. Torres pulled up a new feed. Hold on, we've got something else. On screen, an encrypted voice message. Origin unknown. Destination, Wallace's satellite line. The AI decoder decrypted 2 words from the static. Chairman, Phoenix. The room fell still. Sarah's voice was quiet. He knows the name of our operation. Torres stared at the screen. Then we're compromised. Sarah stepped back from the display. The pressure in her chest returned, heavier this time. He is not running, she said. Everyone turned to her. He is coming for us. Outpost 7. 05:18 hours. The storm returned without warning. Wind howled through the pines, bending them like frail sentinels as rain slammed against the outer walls of Outpost 7. Inside, the facility bristled with urgency. Radios hissed, boots struck tile. Fingers flew across keyboards. No one raised their voice, but no one needed to. They all knew. The operation was no longer covert. Sarah stood before the tactical display, her arms folded, shoulders squared, eyes scanning every flicker of data. Drones tracked Wallace's convoy from above, thermal imaging confirming his identity in the lead vehicle. But it was the transmission that changed everything. Chairman? Phoenix. Not a coincidence. Not intercepted chatter. A direct warning. He's baiting us, Sarah said. He's letting us watch. He wants us to follow. Torres shook her head. That's suicide. No, Marcus said from the far wall. It's control. He approached slowly, his voice low. If he knows we're watching, and he still leads us north, it means this next move is theater. He's feeding us what he wants us to see. Sarah's mind raced. Then what's the real move? No one answered. At 0534, a secure line buzzed in Colonel Bennett's private office. He picked up. Bennett. The voice on the other end was calm. Smooth British accent. Colonel, you have something that belongs to me. Bennett's throat tightened. Identify yourself. Oh, I think you already have, but if it helps, my associates refer to me as the chairman. Bennett's pulse surged. The call was coming through 5 encrypted layers, one of them his own. You made a mistake, Bennett said flatly. The voice chuckled. No, Colonel, you did, when you sent Delgado back into the field. Bennett's silence was answer enough. The voice turned cold. You have 24 hours to destroy the drive, or the cost will not be hers. It will be yours. The line went dead. Bennett stared at the receiver for a long moment. Then he moved. He found Sarah alone in the observation room, watching the Blackhawk through the rain-streaked window. It sat on the pad like a sleeping beast, silent, ready. I just got a call, he said quietly. Sarah did not turn. Was it him? Bennett nodded. He knows you led the op. He knows we have the drive. And he's offering terms? No. He's issuing warnings. Sarah finally looked at him. Did you record it? Yes. Play it. He handed her the tablet. She listened. Once. Twice. On the third listen, she picked up what she had missed the first time. A faint background tone under the chairman's voice. A digital signature. She looked up sharply. He's not using a burner. He's using a cloaked signal repeater. Bennett raised an eyebrow. Explain. Sarah moved to the nearest console. The accent, the tone, the timing, he wants us to believe he's speaking from overseas. But listen. She enhanced the waveform. That resonance. It's interference from a local tactical repeater. Military issue. This call came from within 30 miles. Bennett stared. He's here. Sarah nodded slowly. Or close enough to feel safe. By 0602, the entire outpost was mobilized. Torres rerouted drone coverage to focus within a tighter radius. Marcus began organizing forward teams with unmarked vehicles and suppressed weapons. The rain had become an ally, covering movement, masking sound. Bennett addressed the room. We are no longer reacting. We are hunting. Wallace's convoy is headed for a decommissioned logistics hub near Lake Elmore, long abandoned, but still on some internal maps. There's no reason for him to go there, unless he's meeting someone, Sarah added, or unless he's being watched. Marcus pulled up the facility's layout. Old depot. Reinforced walls, underground fuel cells, 2 sublevels. One road in, no grid power. He chose it for a reason. Sarah studied the blueprint. Then we give him a reason to regret it. At 0625 hours, the convoy reached the depot. 4 SUVs pulled into the gravel lot. Rain streamed off the windshields. Engines idled. Wallace stepped out first, dressed in civilian clothes, black coat, gloves, no insignia. His face was unreadable, but his pace was deliberate. A man awaited him under the steel awning. Tall,
umbrella in one hand, unseen face in shadow. No introductions, just a folder passed from one man to the other. Torres zoomed in on the drone feed. No audio. Run facial recognition, Sarah said. The system ran, failed. Ran again, failed. Blocked, Marcus muttered. Intentional distortion. Then the figure turned slightly and Sarah's eyes locked on one detail. The cufflink. Simple. Silver, etched with a single initial. A. Her breath caught. She turned to Bennett. Director Alston. Bennett froze. That's not possible, he said. He's been with intelligence for 25 years, clean record. No one's clean anymore, Sarah said. The drone feed blinked once, then died. Signal lost, Torres said. What happened? Bennett demanded. EMP burst, she replied. Localized, small. Controlled. Marcus grabbed his comms. We've been blindsided. Sarah turned to Bennett. They knew we were watching. The meeting was bait. Bennett's face darkened. Then where is the real meeting? Torres looked up from her console. Sir, we just lost internal security in the West Corridor. Cameras looped, motion sensors triggered. Everyone turned. Sarah's voice was a whisper. They're not waiting anymore. They're coming here. Outpost 7, 06:33 hours. The alarms never sounded. That was the first sign something was wrong. In a facility where even a power fluctuation in the server room could trigger a yellow status, the sudden blackout of the Western Corridor passed without a single audible alert. No klaxons, no blinking lights, just silence. Too perfect. Sarah Delgado drew her sidearm and moved toward the hallway. The others followed instinctively, the stillness now an enemy in itself. Status? Bennett barked as Torres typed frantically at her terminal. All camera loops show standard feed, she said, eyes wide. But the metadata's off. Someone is overwriting the signal. Live masking. Marcus grabbed a rifle from the tactical rack. We're blind. Sarah motioned to the comms operator. Lock down all exits. No one comes in or out unless verified by visual code. The man hesitated. That'll trap us inside, too. Sarah's voice was steady. Exactly. At 06:37, a motion sensor tripped outside the perimeter gate. 3 men in nondescript maintenance uniforms approached, pushing a utility cart covered in a weatherproof tarp. Nothing about them stood out, until the thermal scans revealed their weapons beneath the plastic. Contact, Torres called. They're already inside the outer fence. How did they find us? Marcus asked. They didn't, Sarah said quietly. They were always watching. Colonel Bennett moved to the secure vault and pulled a small case from the interior. He placed it on the center table and opened it. Inside were 3 biometric-coded flash drives and a thick folder marked Phoenix Burn Protocol. If they breach the control room, he said, we initiate a hard wipe. Data, backups, communications, everything goes dark. Sarah nodded. Not yet. Marcus eyed her. You planning to hold this place by yourself? She looked around the room. I'm not alone. At 06:45, the first breach team entered through the West Utility Corridor. They were professionals, 6-man fire team, suppressed carbines, matching gear with 0 insignia. No chatter, no hesitation. Sarah met them halfway. The first man rounded a corner and dropped silently to her shot, one round to the neck, another to the vest seam. He didn't cry out. He simply collapsed. The rest responded instantly, fanning into defensive formation. Sarah dropped behind a crate and fired again, 3 rounds, tight spread. Another figure fell. Torres's voice crackled through her comm. More heat signatures moving in, northeast stairwell, 2nd team. Marcus took his group and moved fast. We'll handle them.
Sarah slid to new cover, reloaded with practiced hands. The hallway stank of ozone and steel. The lights above flickered again. She keyed her mic. Command, engage fallback plan Bravo 2. Seal all interior blast doors between us and the central hub. Buy us 10 minutes. Bennett replied, Understood. Steel doors slammed shut across the compound. The attackers adjusted, falling back to a slower breach pattern. At 0652, Torres pulled up an encrypted comm intercept. They're speaking low-band comms bouncing between frequencies. No names, just codes. Military-grade encryption. Somebody trained them. Bennett studied the waveform. This isn't rogue mercenary work. These are embedded assets, possibly black cell operators. Sarah stepped into the room, vest torn, streaked with sweat and blood. One of them had a flag patch. Torn Russian GRU. Marcus entered behind her, dragging a body. This one? American. Torres scanned the face. He's in the Pentagon database. Contractor. Cleared for field technical liaison. Sarah exhaled slowly. They're mixed. That's why they're ghosts on satellite. No single affiliation, no recognizable doctrine. They're building a transnational intelligence force, Marcus said. Loyal only to the chairman. And tonight, Sarah said, they're testing it. The countdown to sunrise had begun. Through the window slits, the black sky began to shift toward ash blue. Rain still fell, but the horizon hinted at dawn. The kind that made everything look quieter than it really was. At 0703, a final wave of intruders converged on the southern perimeter. This group was heavier, body armor, longer weapons, thermal visors. They moved like they knew the layout. Torres's console beeped once. Then again. New signal detected, she said. Encrypted drone traffic. Someone just deployed Overwatch. Sarah's blood ran cold. They're planning a full sweep. We won't hold another hour, Bennett said. We extract or we die here. Sarah looked around the room. Operators tightening gear. Torres downloading what she could. Marcus loading mags with quiet precision. Her eyes fell on the folder Bennett had opened. Phoenix, burn protocol. Everything inside her rebelled at the thought. We don't burn it yet, she said. Bennett met her eyes. Then what? Sarah walked to the communications panel. She keyed in an emergency cipher, one reserved for internal intelligence distress beacons, one she had never used. Her hands shook just slightly as she typed the final three letters, ELR. Eyes turned toward her. What is that? Marcus asked. Elser line recall, she replied. Dead channel, scrapped after Kandahar. But if anyone's listening, she hit send. They'll come. Silence followed. No reply. No signal bounce, just static. Sarah stepped back from the console. It's done. The lights flickered once. A voice came through the comm system, crackling. Digital, masked, but clear. Hold position, extraction inbound. Everyone froze. Sarah stepped forward. Identify. A pause, then, this is Echo Actual. Eyes on target. 2 minutes, Marcus grinned. Echo? That's impossible. No, Sarah said. That's Lazarus. Through the glass, the thunder of rotor blades rose, just audible over the storm. Low. Fast. Approaching from the tree line, a second Blackhawk. Unmarked. Sarah's voice steadied. Get ready to move. Torres shut her laptop. Marcus chambered around. The lights inside the facility flared one final time before backup power gave out completely. In the darkness, with boots slamming toward the main entrance and rotors cutting through the sky above, Sarah Delgado whispered the words no one else would dare say. Time to take it back. Outskirts of Fort Benning, 0717 hours. The Blackhawk thundered in low over the treetops, its rotors slicing the morning air. Sunlight pierced the thinning clouds, catching the rain mid-fall and shattering it into 1,000 flickering shards. The bird was fast, silent, and unmarked, its arrival neither cleared nor questioned. Inside Outpost 7, the lights had failed. The emergency generators had drained. Doors groaned under pressure. But no one moved. They were waiting. Sarah Delgado stood by the reinforced door to the main corridor, her sidearm lowered but not holstered. Sweat cut a path through the grime on her face. Her eyes did not blink. Marcus stood by the server vault, guarding the single drive that still contained the unaltered Phoenix data. Torres held the portable comm unit that had made contact with the unknown rescue bird. Colonel Bennett spoke last.
When they land, we run. We do not argue. We do not separate. We move as one. Sarah nodded. We hold the data until we reach secure airspace. Then we make the call. Torres adjusted her earpiece.
Inbound is 30 seconds out. A loud crash echoed down the south corridor. Breaching charge. A second followed. Closer.
Then, silence. Not retreat. Waiting.
Outside, the Blackhawk hovered just above the outpost pad. Two figures dropped by rope, operators in matte tactical gear with no insignia, but one subtle detail gave Sarah pause. Their shoulder patches, not American, not NATO. Just a black phoenix, wings spread, rising from ash. Marcus saw it too.
That's us, he whispered.
Phoenix. The lead operator raised a closed fist, universal signal for hold. Sarah held. The second operator moved to the door, placed a shaped charge, and nodded. The blast was surgical. The steel door buckled inward. And then it was on. Sarah led the team through smoke and chaos. Rifle fire erupted from the far corridor, Wallace's breach team, now pushing toward the control center. But they were too late. Sarah and her team were already outside, sprinting toward the rotor wash. Rain slapped her face. Boots pounded wet gravel. She turned once, just long enough to see shadowed figures flooding the building behind them. And then she was on the chopper. Bennett next. Then Torres. Marcus was last. He turned back, rifle raised, laid down 2 short bursts, and jumped. The operator slid the door closed. Lift off. The Blackhawk surged into the sky. Below, Outpost 7 burned, not from explosives, but from the terminal wipe Sarah had triggered just before they escaped. She had entered it herself. Everything behind them, files, maps, names, turned to ash. Classified safe house. Unknown location, 11:02 hours. The walls were gray. The air was still. No windows. Just a bank of encrypted monitors and a single steel table. Sarah sat across from a man in a charcoal suit. He never gave his name. He did not need to. He slid a document across the table. Your reinstatement is confirmed, he said. As of 0700 this morning, your record is cleared. Your rank restored. Benefits reactivated. Sarah said nothing. There's more, he continued. The president was briefed. The Joint Chiefs have seen the raw data. Special operations units are being mobilized for sweep arrests within the next 72 hours. He leaned forward. But the chairman has not been identified. Sarah met his eyes. Director Alston. The man didn't react. Sarah continued. He met with Wallace. He handed him a folder. The surveillance confirms the cufflink, the build, the voice. We have no proof, the man said. Nothing admissible. And he's vanished. The real location of that meeting was never confirmed. That's how deep it goes, Sarah said. He tapped the table once. Which is why Project Lazarus is now permanent. Phoenix will operate under direct oversight. reporting only to the President and the Joint Intelligence Task Force. He handed her a second envelope. This is your new assignment. She opened it. Operation Emberfall. Target. Chairman. A list of known cells. Suspected operations. Several countries. 4 continents. Sarah looked up. You want me to take them all down? No, the man said. We want you to start. Outside, Marcus waited by a black SUV. When she exited, he nodded once. They gave you the folder? She got in. They gave me a war. Marcus smiled faintly. Good, I was getting bored. In the back seat, Torres handed her a burner phone, a single number pre-programmed. Rodriguez checked in. He's in. He'll coordinate the domestic side. Sarah nodded. We'll need him. She looked out the window as the vehicle pulled onto the wet road. The trees blurred by. Somewhere behind them, Outpost 7 was gone. But the mission had just begun. She exhaled, slow and deep. I was supposed to retire this year, she said. Marcus glanced back. You still can. She shook her head. Not until I put a bullet in the man who signed James Wilson's death order. The car disappeared down the empty road, leaving nothing behind but silence. Somewhere in the Alps, 22:46 hours, CET, a fire crackled in a stone hearth. A man in a dark coat stood alone, glass of wine in one hand. On the table beside him, a tablet replayed footage of Sarah Delgado boarding the Blackhawk. He smiled, then tapped his earpiece. Confirm, yes, she escaped. Yes, they believe they're winning. A pause. He turned to the shadows behind him. She is exactly what we need her to be. Angry, honest, brilliant. He raised his glass. To Major Delgado, the most dangerous weapon we ever created. Fade to black.